Welcome to Bill and Rob's An Excellent Adventure. I'm Bill Tilley.
And I'm Rob Schulte. Bill, I'm so glad we are here for a Halloween edition of Bill and Rob's An Excellent Adventure. This is really kind of bringing us back a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to have some real sold in the room vibes on this one.
Yeah, and old heads know. That's how this show started, was through a little pandemic event Bill and I did called Sold in the Room. Now, Bill, it's taken us a minute to get to what we're covering tonight, and I'm okay with it. We're always throwing a little bit of surprises in our audience's way.
Yeah, much like the plot of an 80s action television show, you get to your first act and then, unforeseen change, plot complication, and we're going to move into 2, and now we're in the third act heading for 4 to finish this bad boy off. So we've changed gears, 2 times since we announced the first one was going to be Ninja 3, the Domination was going to be my Halloween pick because there's some spectral activity. And then after that, it was like, nah, kind of rather do Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter. And that was cool. And then I'm like sitting there and I just finished my notes on that one. I had written down the last period where I got a text from my good buddy Rob that's like, I think we need to reclaim a Knight Rider episode. And I'm like, we're on it. We're on it, pal.
Well, I'm not going to say no to that.
No, you never say no to the Knight.
Never say no to the Knight. But audience, if Bill would have fired back like, I actually just finished my notes for Abe Lincoln, I've got a busy couple of days coming up, I would have said that's fine. Let's do Abe Lincoln. There's no peer pressure here. But I'm kind of glad. I'm kind of glad. In previous years in podcasts of yore that do not exist anymore, I had watched this episode, Bill, but it has been, I don't know, it's been 4 years I was living in New York when last time I watched this episode. Now, of course, we're talking about Halloween Night, season 3, episode 5 of Knight Rider from October 28th, 1984. But Bill, this is something you watch annually, right?
Oh yeah. Yearly. As you can see, there's been a few changes to the studio to celebrate this moment. In fact, I'm actually broadcasting over my comm link to Rob's tonight.
Hello.
I got your podcast, pal. Pick me up at the studio. Yeah.
That's the sound effect that's representing a light.
They made hats at one point that had that on there. I would have sent you one if I'd had time. You'd have been, because you are my pal. You're not a car, but you're the next best thing.
Exactly.
But yeah, I do. I have actually a playlist on the Plex that I've worked on. And so I've gathered my Halloween. I have holiday episodes and I have a Halloween playlist. And this is definitely right at the top of it.
Now, is there more than one Halloween Knight Rider episode? This is like the best one, but like
technically this is the Halloween episode. There's also one called Fright Night.
Oh, okay.
So that's the 2 spooky episodes. Technically spooky. I'm sure there's probably some other stuff that scares you about this show from here and there, some of it.
Oh.
But yeah, this is their Halloween episode for sure. This is your very special Halloween episode.
Yes. Well, Bill, I have my salt mine full of VHS tapes, but you have your hermetically sealed chamber for all of your TV guides and all of the things you've taped over the years, all of that and you got a TV spot, right, that you had found and you've transcribed it here for me. Would you like to read that?
I would. Yes, there's no back of the box, so tonight it is definitely TV spot. And boy, it just you got to do your best imitation of TV ad guy. He's not. Here's the thing, Rob. Do you tell the subtle differences between TV spot guy and movie reel guy? They are 2 different things.
Yes, I can, because the TV spot guy has a little bit of a different pitch in his voice. It's almost like a fun uncle, whereas like movie guy is more like all business, even if he is like being goofy about it.
Exactly. Movie guy, definitely all business. If these 2 were a mullet, movie guy would be the front where the business is. TV spot guys in the back where the party is. So
Tonight on Knight Rider. That's kind of what it is, right?
let me fire up our 2- screen here. Like we're actually in the dash looking in the thing. And we're going to do the TV spot for Halloween night that came out on October 28, 1984. Sunday on Knight Rider. A Halloween murderer's tricks are no treat for Michael. And what's the secret of the haunted house? A special Knight Rider Sunday on NBC.
Yeah. I love that they're like, how can we just make this sound as spooky as possible? Because it's being paired with like clips from the show. And that's great because like the haunted house, which we'll get to, there's no secret to the haunted house.
Nope.
The secret is how can we put as much spooky stuff in here with spending as little money as possible?
How can we mine everything that Universal possibly owns to spend about $1.50 on this particular episode?
Yeah. Well, we're spending at least $5, and our listeners are, as we go through Halloween night. Bill, should we jump into our patented segments?
We should indeed, and we like to start off, as always, with some fun facts we could have digged up from various sources, internet or otherwise, or preferably analog if you can find them these days for a Knight Rider episode. But this time, I've named this particular episode Search Your Databanks, Pal.
Love it.
Because that happened a lot on the show. That was great.
Oh, yes.
Michael just talks to Kit and Kit goes and finds. And as we're going along, I think we're going to find that some of the things that they showed us then, we still don't have easily today.
No. But that we want it. These are things that we all want and need, but sometimes we just have to use our imaginations. Bill, would you like to go first on this one?
I would. Production notes and things like that. I'm sure there's more of them out there. Once again, I'm always amazed that the internet kind of lets me down on, I think, text-based facts. When you're trying to go just read things, like you can find scripts and stuff if you're lucky. But I happen to know a couple of channels that do some things, so I was able to mine some of their content and some things I already knew. But one of them is this episode, and we'll backtrack. Everybody knows Car Guy here, so this is the kind of stuff Car Guy grows up on in the 80s as Knight Rider. Had several cars, of course, that portrayed Kit. And this episode has one of the best looks at what they called the hardtop stunt car. So Kit is a T-top car, which T-top's made out of glass. Of course, Kits are surely bulletproof and all that stuff as in the episode, but still glass. And in real time, when you're filming a real TV show, glass, not the most sturdy of materials when you're doing a lot of stunts. So they would buy hardtop cars and camouflage them, and this is classic TV stuff, make it look like something else. So in the episode, and we actually have it on the screen behind us as Michael's coming out of the costume shop with the gorilla suit in his hand, he gets in Kit, and you can see that on this stunt car, which was one of their main ones, they took metal strips and just riveted them into the top of the roof of the car, along the front where the T-tops would meet the windshield, along the back where it would meet the latch, and then straight down the middle where the divider bar would be. And then you can see it now because you can pause everything. And then they just spray bombed everything with black paint. And it so reminds me of when you see these things now, like these were magical images in very low resolution on very small television. So almost all of it shot right by. Wow. But when you see a prop or a thing from somewhere today, if you've ever had the chance to do that and you look at it, you go, wow, that kind of looks like crap.
Yeah.
It's still magical. It's great that this is just what you did. You grabbed some spare metal, boom, 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 and you got fake T-tops, which explained a lot over the years when Kit would roll over and crash and those things just didn't explode out like in giant pieces of tempered glass. So it's a fun little thing that you can catch. And I'd advise everybody when you're watching these shows today, always, look for those little fun things because it's neat to see the cars switch.
That is interesting because I know half of what you were talking about, but your context clues were able to let me understand what's going on with the car. And I need to know more about vehicles, Bill. I'm telling you, it's one of those things, but this is the show that would make me do it. Right. Yeah,
it will definitely one of the things that'll send you down an automotive rabbit hole. But a TV car, that's kind of the magic of them. Like they have to be heroes, they're characters and they have to look as good as they can. But it's amazing how bad they can look to just to get the job done, because that's what they did. And of course, as usual, nobody pictured us looking at these on high def DVDs 40 years down the road. Just
Nope.
Wasn't going to happen.
Wasn't a thing. Well, Bill, I will say that I was speaking on a social media platform with previous guest Kevin Marr about his special, which I think was at the time of this recording a couple of days ago, where he had at Nighthawk Cinema in New York, a special on TV shows and their Halloween episodes. And the woman who played the first Becky on Roseanne was there as his guest, and
Lacey Sherbet.
Yes, because they were because Roseanne episodes are famous for Halloween episodes. But as we were getting through it, I was like, one of my favorites was Halloween Night. And he's like, oh, I love Halloween Night. And he was like rolling out some facts. And he was like, and he goes, and I'm pretty sure, and this is what I'm using. Now, like you said, it's hard to trace all this back. But going from our friend Kevin, who would never lie to us.
Never.
Supposedly, the gorilla suit in this film, in this TV show, is the same suit from Trading Places.
Jeez.
Yeah.
There's a deep cut. That's kind of interesting. I could believe it. I'd have to watch this movie again to check, but these costuming places and effects and all that stuff, depending on the studio, like there's piles of it. I can see it being there. How many gorilla suits would you have on hand?
Well, and I'm looking it up now. Is Trading Places a Universal film? Looks like it.
Well, there you go. Yeah, probability is high.
Very high.
That's fun.
So I thought that was very fun. But what else did you find interesting as you were searching your data banks?
So there's a part of the show that always, even at the time it happened, was a little funky for me. It's at the end in the big pivotal chase scene. Michael and Kit turbo boost through the Sepulveda drive-in theater screen.
Sure.
And when they do it, the people on the other side, they're watching Creature from the Black Lagoon. And it's supposed to be in 3D, which it's clearly not on the screen, but they're wearing the glasses. And so Kit shoots through the screen and everybody goes nuts. And I'm like, that's just kind of a little weird, because it just seems like a giant car accident is what I would think if that happened. Like, oh my God, I'd run screaming into the night. But apparently in the original script, the movie that was playing on the screen was supposed to be a movie where a young woman gets into a black Camaro and is driving towards the screen at the moment when Kit jumps through the screen. And I thought, that makes so much more sense.
That would have been great.
And I'm sure they did it just because Creature is a Universal film and they mind their stuff and it didn't cost them anything. But it would have made an actual big difference even back then if that had happened, because we all were just kind of latching on to 3D again. It'd come around and was popular. And it's like, well, at least I'd get the joke.
Yeah.
So kind of stinks that they didn't commit to that particular plot point and visual. It would have made a much more fun watch at that particular moment. Not that the stunt was okay, but I mean, the stunt's also a model stunt. So that's fine. That part didn't bug me. But yeah, I'd rather they'd gone with the original script.
Yeah, that's true. But, there's only so much we can do in this world, but we could remake this episode, but then we'd be our own enemy, I think is what I'm trying to say.
We don't need to be our own Garth Knights.
No.
The world will do that for us.
The other piece of data I found is that during the costume party, Bill, Simon wears a mask that resembles a Cylon soldier from the original Battlestar Galactica. And the writer of this episode, Glenn A. Larson, wrote and produced Battlestar Galactica.
He sure did.
So I think that is very fun. Also probably owned by NBC Universal.
Yeah, it was. It was a Universal show. And that joke's actually got to be made twice on TV because it's in the A-Team credits, because Dirk Benedict was on Battlestar, and there's the scene where the Cylon at Universal Park walks past him, and he does that
Oh yeah,
obvious shtick bit. But the weird thing about that is, and I would have to check it now that you brought it up, which would be interesting. I'm pretty sure the helmet that Simon's wearing is gold, and all the Cylons in the show were silver, but Mattel made a toy Cylon action figure that was a gold one. And
do you mean on Battlestar Galactica? His was
I
gold?
don't remember them ever having a gold one on Battlestar, but they made a toy that was a gold one, and he was like the Cylon commander or something. So
interesting.
I think he might actually be the only person to cosplay a toy.
Interesting.
Wasn't actually on screen. It would be.
Now, of course, it was much like Kit spray painted black on this episode, but we get it. We get
it. Yeah. Kit's got a running account, I think, down at the old Auto Works for unlimited Krylon paint. Yeah. Johnny Bench is just off to the side, just raking in the money from the shows. They just buy copious cans of black Krylon all day long.
Well, Bill, this is fun. And what's more fun is the next segment, the things we liked. What are you calling it?
I'm calling this one, this is things that we like that got this episode turbo boosted.
You went first last time. You mind if I go first this time?
I do not.
This is maybe one of my favorite things in this episode, and that is the silver shamrock masks. So Norman Baines, who I'm sure we'll talk about later in this episode, at the Halloween party, wears a pumpkin head mask that specifically has a little silver shamrock medallion on the back of it. These are masks from Halloween 3, the movie Halloween 3, which to anyone who has seen the Halloween franchise, Halloween 3 is not in the storyline of Michael Myers. It was a separate story about a fictional mask company, like Halloween mask company, Silver Shamrock, whose masks there was like a spell put on them, and then like they could turn kids, whoever wore it, into obeying servants. It's a very cool movie, and Bill, I think one you could actually stomach for Halloween because it's not a slasher. And it is it's so cool to see that like mask live again, because those masks are awesome.
Well, that had to be a fun moment for you digging through this, because we all know Rob's is 90% pumpkin spice on the inside, and he uses it to power a podcast about these kind of things, which I like to dabble in, but that's his bread and spicy butter right there. So.
Yes, it is. So here's the thing, Bill, just to tell you a little bit more about Halloween 3, because there's some things in this movie I think they're really going to make you be like, you know what? I think I need to put that on my Plex. Kids all over America want silver shamrock masks for Halloween. Dr. Daniel Chalice seeks to uncover a plot by Silver Shamrock owner Colonel Cochran because of the hypnotic thing. But take a look at some of this cast, Bill. Let's see here. Brad Schachter, Michael Curie, Dan O'Herlihy, Stacey Necklin, Tom Atkins.
Oh, the maniac cop boss himself.
Yes. So I think you just take a peek at that when you get a chance. Anyway,
that was a very special episode of Pumpkin Spice coming on, which
it may have to
be on.
May have to.
Assuming Graham lets me after we have our big Highlander battle. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, I advise you to go over and listen to Pumpkin Spice, because I'm not going to tell you. That's your incentive.
That's true. That's true. Well, Bill, what was something you liked in this episode? I know there's so many, but...
Oh, yeah. There's plenty of things I like. But one of the things I like is this is the Bonnie Barstow heavy episode. It's ridiculous at this point in my life to say things like I had a crush on blank, because I had a crush on all these people, but I really, really liked Bonnie, and I really liked Patricia McPherson. She was on season 1. She left for season 2 when we got April Holden. April Curtis, played by Rebecca Holden. No, she was great too, but she was the original, and she came back for season 3 and 4. So this is her return. It was always great to see her on screen, because when they first brought her on in the first season, they immediately did that kind of will they won't they thing with her and Michael, which thankfully didn't pan out. But they're great foils on screen together, and they play really well. And of course, this is 1984, so we are treated to some wonderful costume changes for her in her civilian clothes that just range everything from Fruity Pebbles neon to, you know, Sierra Nevada part Navajo sofa brown pattern. It's just, God, I love it so much. And she had amazing hair. So yes,
Love this.
the 11-year-old boy in me that was watching this just comes out every time and goes like, she's pretty, but she's also really great. She's just wonderful on screen. They make her a little too namby-pamby in this one. Bonnie's a much stronger character than but she's
To
the
be
girl
fair,
on
she's
screen.
also sick.
She is sick, so they give her an excuse for that. So I think she would have played it a little more hard-nosed if she'd had a chance. But it's great to see her. It's just, as much as you love the main cast, every time one of the supporting players gets a bigger moment in the sun, I always love that. We don't need to have them on there every show for 3/4 of the show, but love to see him get to shine. And so this one's a good Patricia McPherson show to get a glimpse at what she can do, and it's just great to see her.
I totally agree. I think that's one of, there's worry sometimes when you get an episode where it's like, oh, today we're gonna follow this other person. You're kind of like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Like I think Lower Decks did that not as good as they could have, but
true. And back in the day when you got some of these as a kid, I can remember if you got 2 in a row, you were in a Coin Vance situation, and your little young heart started to miss a beat because then you didn't know anything. There's no internet. You're like, oh my God, are they off the show? Are they sick? Did they quit? It's like, why is Ponch gone for 6 episodes? Well, he fell off his bike in real life and broke his arm. So luckily it's not anything like that. But yeah, it would put your hackles up almost, but not as bad as the backdoor pilot when it's like, oh, why are these strangers on here for 3/4 of the show? I don't care about Ponch's Angels. So,
and I have so much of that from Vanderpump as well. Like, wait a second.
Oh.
Well, I thought they were visiting Montauk, and now we're just watching these people in the Hamptons.
Exactly.
What?
And
Summer House.
If we ever wanted to bring up our good friends over at Piloting Error,
yes,
there is a backdoor pilot 2-part episode in Knight Rider.
Really? I'm going to message them while we're talking. What is this?
The 2-parter in Knight Rider is called Mouth of the Snake, part 1 and 2. And it set up a guy whose name was Dalton, I believe. And he's kind of a Remo Williams type, sort of weird, mythical, part Lorenzo Lamas body double warrior kind of 80s guy. And they did make a pilot for him called Forced Vengeance that I possess but have not watched.
Whoa.
So we got some serious, trying to make another dynasty data that we have access to if those guys are interested.
I'm sure they will be. Well, Bill, what was I guess I should say my other like?
Yes, I'm dying to know what it is, Robs.
There's so much. There is so much. Could it be Norman Baines? Maybe. But I want to just put out there, because we talked tech earlier, the bathroom hologram.
Oh, good God.
Where, like, even the internet pedant on IMDb is like, we still don't have technology to have holograms just appear. And it's like, well, this is actually kind of clever. It looks silly, and it's obviously not a realistic technology, but it is something being shot at a mirror, right? So much easier for us to get some sort of holographic image manipulation. And I thought by doing that, it also gave credence to the tech at the time, where you could potentially fool someone to be like, oh yeah, they shot this thing at a mirror, so it looked like it was in the room. And maybe that actually works when it wouldn't. But I really loved it. And I forget what it was saying backwards, but just also having the tape playing something in reverse is always.
36 Fairview Road.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Regrets guessing that.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, that's just one little glimpse. What was your other like, Bill?
I like that the 80s aesthetic is on full display from stem to stern in this episode. Of course, we see it in a regular fashion on a lot of other ones, but this one in particular, and here's some instances that it really popped out at me. The Denise, the person in Bonnie's building, the singles building who has the party, when Michael goes to knock on her door, she answers the door in, I don't know what you would exactly call it. It's not pajamas. It's like a mini skirt sort of pajama top and stockings and high heels. So that means she was in her living room just doing whatever, watching TV or taking a nap. She had those shoes on when she answered the door. So that's how she, of course, every woman wears high heels in the 80s to do everything around the house. I mean,
Well,
come on.
she is living in a singles building.
Yeah, because the mingling could happen at a moment's notice and you got to be ready.
Am I dense, Bill? Like, is this a thing where they're like, you're moving? I'm like, oh, I'm single and I need to move. I better find the singles apartment.
Yeah, it was a thing.
Wow.
I think it was probably more prevalent in places like Los Angeles, and it might be things that just kind of evolved naturally. That's just how it got to be that way.
Not like advertised as like the singles place.
But I'm pretty sure there had to be places that were advertised as like, no kids, whatever. And that's pretty much.
Or maybe not family friendly because just the size of it too.
Yeah, very well could be. So yeah, it was out there. But in this episode, we're also reminded why it's so damn dangerous to move fruit or glass or crates in alleys in Los Angeles. I mean, why even go to work? It's just going to get crashed into, run into, smashed. Somebody's going to be thrown into it. In this episode, Michael and Kit leap through a pile of it in an alley. People are just trying to move. And the other big thing that really got me was the crowd of the drive-in, which we mentioned earlier. Like when Kit shoots through their screen, they don't run in terror or go get the cops. They scream and clap, and they're like, this is just part of the show. And Michael jumps out, has a fist fight with Simon in their parking lot and knocks him out. And the crowd is cheering Michael. But remember, none of these people know who he is.
Nope. Andy's in costume. So even if they did.
Maybe the guy in black's the good guy. You don't know, but they're just like, he's won. He must be cool. So they're just clapping away. I'm like, this is just a thing that you just thought would happen as a kid where it's like, if you're the hero, people are just going to know that just intrinsically. So, and everything else that goes on, all the other stuff is, of course, on display. All the great clothes, Michael's inability to button a shirt above the first 3 buttons at the bottom. It's all there and it's all fantastic.
Yeah. I could watch this episode again and again, but it's not all things that we loved. There are some things we disliked, Bill. Is there a name for this segment?
Yes, there were some things that sent us screaming into the night.
K-N.
With a K and IGHT.
Yeah,
I don't probably shouldn't have to say that. I'm sure our viewers are hip to me at this point, but they can't see the joke on screen. So
gotta be safe. Bill, I do have to say that I was starting to write one and I was at a loss because there was very few things that I disliked in this episode. But I did end up agreeing with you on one of yours. So I think we should start with the shared thing. And that is work-based costume parties.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah.
And I don't understand the point of it at all. Michael makes mention a couple of times, like, this party is so important to Devin, but why? It's so lame. It's not like there's heads of state here or anything. This is just crew people, and they're all dressed up in like royalty-free costumes. Or you can't ID anybody except for there was one character that walks by, and what I thought was just the top half of a Darth Vader mask missing the faceplate that I stopped for minutes and frame by framed it. And then I looked and he's got like some kind of animal mask on. And all I could come away with was like samurai rat Like, I don't
I
know,
guess. I
but
guess.
they're so bad. And we spend so much time in this weird party and TV time, and it doesn't move the plot at all in any
No.
of it. And even when they're setting up for it, like they go back and Bonnie's on a ladder hanging decorations. She has a degree in engineering. She's a doctor of engineering. She built a sentient supercar. Devin, you have a staff. Why the hell are you having her on a ladder hanging paper mache things from the ceiling?
Also, can we just talk about like, yeah, this party feels like not fun. Like it feels like fun in the way that like any party would be fun, but the fact that work is attached to it makes it
Yeah,
because even like Michael is like, oh, I know this is important to him, so I gotta get there. And it's like, well,
right.
okay. It just makes me think of all the work parties I've been to and how many of them were the only ones I would ever look forward to was when I worked at a bar and it was just like, oh, open bar. That's the only reason I'm excited for this thing is because I don't have to pay for booze at this party, right?
Right.
When I think to like other things, like, I don't drink anymore. And the last time I went to a work event, it was fine, right? It wasn't like a big deal because I knew I could leave at any point. But like I had this one guy who I had told I don't drink alcohol, and I didn't make it a big thing, but he like kept coming up to me. He's like, "Oh, I'm so excited! I've never been to a cocktail bar like this. I've never tried 151. I think I'm gonna get a cocktail with 151." And I'm just like, "Okay, like, what do you want me to like?" 30 seconds ago, I told you like I don't drink, so like I'm not going to engage in like your excitement for drinking a new type of alcohol here. That's what you get at work parties, you know?
Yeah, and let's be clear. A work party is a party at work. It's not if
Yeah.
you have a gathering with your buddies from work after work.
Yes.
Those
Yes.
are different. But you go to a work party, and here's the thing. It's my experience. Sure, there might be some stuff to eat that's good. There might be something to drink. You might even be getting paid to be there. You're on the clock. You will always want to leave because it's
Yes.
not a party, because you're
Yes.
there with all the other people from work that you probably can't or don't want to stand. So it's not fun. It's just not. And especially if you're probably the partner of somebody at one, that's just a
Oh, yeah.
miserable experience because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
all you got to introduce him to people that you don't even want to talk to during the
Have
day.
the
It's
same
just
conversation over and over and over again.
yeah, and everybody at this party is, of course, they're background actors. They're not engaging with
No.
anybody, especially not Devin or Michael or Bonnie or Norman. Like none of it. It is just, and the lights are fucking stage light bright.
Oh, yeah.
It's just this place is ugh. It's a work party nightmare.
Well, I'll tell you the other thing I disliked about this episode, Bill, and it's not that it and I disliked it because the elements were too good that they didn't use them enough. And that was like the whole like CDE storyline with the witch.
Ah,
Like think of how
Esmeralda.
yes, think of how cool this episode would have been if like she did cast some sort of spell on Michael and like he went to the witches and warlock ball and Bonnie had to figure out how to get him out with Kit or whatever. Like he became like King Warlock or something. And we didn't get that. What we did get was really fun. She's like drawing a circle with stars around it, the car. And then she asks to borrow the car. And then at the end, she makes him some dish that makes the plants all die. It's great. It was silly and fun, but that's the story I really wanted to see.
And that dovetails into basically my last point in here is like, well, I've described this episode as a cost cutter, which it clearly is because
Mhm.
Universal owns all these things. But this plot is a lot of Hitchcock drops.
Yeah.
And when there's one particular one where they go to the psycho house, and of course, they pull up, get out of the car, and Michael looks up at it and goes, place seems kind of familiar. And he does the nah, where I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, I groan out loud every
Yeah.
time I see it. That's just stop.
It's like what you were
Don't.
saying with A-Team, right?
Yeah, don't. We get it. We see it without you saying a thing. Just stop. And this whole story is so overly complicated. I mean, The goal of the story, let's just tell you, is that Simon is trying to get a key that Bonnie possesses because she moved into an apartment of a woman who was blackmailing Simon's dad, taking the family money and yada yada. So the point is to get a key from Bonnie, a key that she has. The links that they go to, hologram cameras, monkey murders, false direction, bodies hidden in sheds and then trying to gas people to death, demon messages in the mirror, all this stuff. All he had to do was be friendly to her because we see her liking him. Like he's just a dude that she likes, and go to her apartment, give her a knockout drop, take her key and leave. That's all he needed to do because he takes it off her key ring at the end. He knows where it is. I don't know why this apartment matters at all. And still it's all this apartment crap and all this misdirection, which Michael falls for every time. He's like, Norman did it. And they're like, no. Okay. Denise did it. No. Okay. Edward Grant did it. No. Like he stumbles through this whole damn thing. And like you, I would have preferred if they had done a real Halloween episode. Like you could keep the Hitchcock flavor, but have it be about some terrible menace or some weird spirit going on or some escaped lunatic who's tormenting the flag headquarters, or like you could go in any direction, but make it a Halloween type thing. Witches, warlocks, demons, just recapping a bunch of junk from old movies is not really, and those aren't Halloween movies. Hitchcock's movies aren't all Halloween movies. They're thrillers. So you've missed the mark completely on that one. So as much fun as I had watching it, the plot is it's just a big old pile of 3 1/4-inch discs that should be degaussed and put back into storage so Kit can't watch them on his TV screen anymore.
Yeah.
It's just that I would love to have seen a real creepy thriller type episode for Michael and or the rest of the cast to get into.
Yeah. Well, Bill, we did amuse ourselves, and we have to talk about those. As much as as convoluted, I should say, as the story was, it was amusing. And what is that segment called?
We call this one this week, One Laugh Can Make a Difference.
You should go first. Bill.
I'll go first. Okay. And I'm going to ask Bonnie a simple question. Why did you move into the singles building and then expect it to be quiet during party season?
Oh, could never.
I get it. She's sick and she's cranky. The very first opening scene is her trying to take some stuff out of boxes and freebase NyQuil, and the party's raging and you can hear it all. And it's all through the building. We've all been there. We've all been at the party. As we've gotten older, we've been above the party. It's like you kind of have to accept certain things. So, but she's just clearly, I'm like, I don't think you moved into the right building at all, Bond.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I will say this, just because of the cough syrup part of it, I thought this the first time I watched it, and I wasn't quite sure this last time, but I was like, am I misremembering this? And I was, but I totally thought the first time for sure that this episode was going to end with it all being like a cough syrup dream.
You thought she was going to St. Elsewhere, this bad boy, just be staring at a snow globe with a gorilla choking a woman in it?
Yep. And she would wake up and be like, oh yeah, there's a reason none of it made any sense.
Oh God, that's
I need to lay off the cough syrup. Or Michael comes in and he's like, you need to lay off the cough syrup.
Bonnie, you haven't been to work in 4 days. You had to knock down the door. You all right?
Well, Bill, I will tell you that that was an amusing thought, but that wasn't my moment. And I think that I will start with, we talked about the Halloween costumes and how they're a little bit bland. They're kind of nondescript in a lot of ways, a lot of hodgepodge. And one of those hodgepodges was what I can only describe as a patriotic clown. Do you remember seeing this guy?
Yeah, because I don't like clowns, and even
Yeah.
on TV, they get my attention, even though I don't like it.
It was like a patriotic clown, except he was wearing like a domino mask. And I was just like, what is this? The same where you were like, is this like Ninja Rat? I'm just like, is this like clown running for president? I don't know.
Did they let the extras go to the
Just
costume department
rate
and
it.
just pick out some crap and be like, you've got like 2 minutes, go grab some junk?
I think
Or
that
did
has to be
somebody
it.
assign this to them? That's my question. That's probably lost to the annals of time, but I would like to know that.
Yeah, I would love to know that too. It does sound like it's like, okay, extras, go pick out your costumes. Meet us out here in 30 minutes.
Yeah, because like I said, they're not.
Nothing can match, right? Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff in there. Like there are some like I don't know cavalier type dudes, and I didn't see any cowboys, but you see, there are a few costumes that are like coordinated for their
yeah,
parts, but most
yeah.
of it is just like like it's Samurai Rat and Captain Clown Patriot. Like we're just like we just got to get this shoot in the can. We got to go.
Yeah. Well, Bill, what's your final thing that amused you?
My final thing is actually one I'm going to have to attribute to somebody else because I've watched this thing 1,000 times and it never occurred to me. So I'm calling it out. Then I shout out to Allison Priegler over at Movie Nights on YouTube. She reviewed this episode. I'm a fan of her stuff, so I've watched a lot of it. And this is one of the things. And she pointed this out, and now I can't unsee it for the rest of my life. I'm sure the many more times I will watch this episode. The gorilla at the beginning of the movie is the murderer. He kills the girl.
Yes.
Michael does all his track down stuff. He wants to find the suit. He goes and he finds the suit. It's at the casting place. And he goes and he gets it and he goes out to the car and he's putting it in kit. And we see up the street another car where the gorilla murderer is back. And he tries to run him down and it goes into a chase. And now we have to ask the question. We know it's Simon. That means Simon had to go specifically rent another gorilla hair suit, put it on, get in the car, drive around town to get to where Michael was. And he stopped dead in the street when he makes his run to try and run him over. We see his furry hands turn the switch and everything. Why?
Yeah.
Why would you do this? Why? Simon is so committed to the gorilla murderer bit. I don't know whether to praise him or just say, dude, you're nuts. And that means he drove all over town in this gorilla suit. Now I'm betting in LA, that's probably not going to get much of a second look, but he still had to do it. And I'm like, oh my God, I never thought of that before. Why did it? And then he doesn't do it again. He doesn't show up at the party in the gorilla suit. That would have made much more sense than the Cylon helmet. But yeah, I mean, that is some TV logic that escaped me for 40 years. It's now dead center. So thank you, Allison, for pointing that out to me. I will always treasure that stupid thing that's in this TV show from your observation.
I love that. Well, speaking of gorilla costumes, it was just very amusing to me, Bill, that it's a gorilla costume made from real gorilla fur.
Yeah. I
don't think even in the 80s, I feel like that is prime time for people saying
no. But you know what struck me from that fact, Rob, is it made me think of Chewbacca, because Chewbacca's costume was made out of real yak fur.
Wow.
Which, if you're a fan of those movies at all, everything about hot, sweaty, heavy, like looked great on screen, not cool. And just think, you're going to have, and it's expensive, you're going to have gorilla hair costumes for rent. How long is that thing going to last? And good God, what's it going to smell like?
And don't even get PETA started on it.
No, I mean, of course,
in LA. Come on.
No, I mean, this is only something that can happen in the way back time of the 80s.
Oh yes,
but
of course.
Good Lord.
Well, Bill, it's time to wrap things up. But we have a very special way of rating our movies, made even more special for this episode with the new spelling that just got put in our document. Would you like to let everyone know what we do at this point?
At this point of the show, we call it 5 Nights, for $1. And that's where we think about the thing that we've just watched and we ask ourselves a question. If you went back into the video store of your day as our normal way we would do this, but let's see, let's put it in a different term. So you've gotten into your 1982 special edition Pontiac Trans Am with 2 TV screens, although it's only one in this season. And there's a slot in there for you to put some money and you can watch this episode on Kit's screen. After you've seen it all, it's only $1 is what it's going to take. And you put it in his ATM slot, which Kit did have. Keep watching, everybody. It just gets better over time. And you can watch this episode, and now you can drive around and watch this episode for up to 5 days. But the minute you stop watching it, it's done. You're just out of there. So how many of those 5 days will you go back and watch Halloween Nights in the glorious comfort of Recaro seats and analog technology? 1 night, 5 nights, what's it going to be?
Wow, Bill. Well, this is your baby, so I'll go first. Okay.
Sure.
I have to say, it's been a while since I've done this. I love Halloween. I love Halloween television. I love the break from the norm that you get in a Halloween special episode. Even the bad ones are entertaining. And when you try and throw as much at the wall as they do in this episode, a lot of good and a lot of silly is still sticking on that wall. And even where it falls short in a way that's like, this is ridiculous. Like, you didn't have to think this far into an episode about Halloween on Knight Rider, right? And so even in the most ridiculous ways, this show succeeded. This episode succeeded, and it is getting 5 nights for my $1. Turbo boosted. Yes.
Feels like that could be like a drink or something, like catchphrase for some energy drink.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That does my old but still ticking nostalgic retro heart really good. I love it when Rob's like something I like. So, this is an actual thing we care much about. Always try to be fair, honest, and, just absolutely down the middle about all the things we watch. Dispassionate. Throwing all that out the T-tops. It's just not going to happen. I love the show. I love everything about it. I was there when it debuted in 1982. I begged my parents to take me to the store so I could buy the model kit, which I put together while watching the show, just glued it all together immediately. No paint, no nothing, just so I could play with it. I begged them to take me to Kmart in 83 so that I could get the talking kit car right there with Michael. It was like one of those moments where you'll eviscerate yourself for your parents. I stand here with my kit specs with the original typewritten envelope. Let me show you this, Rob. I mailed away for this.
Wow. Don't put your address too far on there.
It's still there, all in handwritten material. So that's all right. I don't live there anymore.
I know. I love that.
So it's going to be 5 nights and 500 more. It's Knight Rider. It's great. I can't not love it. And if you like 80s TV, you're going to love it. I'm not even going to try to be dispassionate. And that is saying the things like, I don't love the story, but I love watching it. So there's the disconnect and the honesty, I guess, for this one. I don't love the story at all. The story's all the things I've said. It's haphazard and weird, but I don't care. It's like you said, they managed to make a Halloween episode in the classic style of 80s TV, and they sold it. So this thing, 5 nights all the way, and I'll be watching this as I drive off into the sunset while Zanesville native Richard Basehart, Wilton Knight himself, voiceover of Knight Rider, sends me down that desert road into the distance as the tire tracks fade towards the mountains. Little extra bonus part. So
love that, Bill.
Yeah, everybody watch Knight Rider.
Yeah, you got
to do it.
Well, Bill, happy Halloween to you. We've still got a couple of, one more Pumpkin Spice podcast episode that's coming out in the main feed, free to all. I believe I'll also put this episode out in the main feed. But if you want to see the video, folks, you got to go to patreon.com/Bill and Robs, where not only you get the video, you get our entire back catalog that I know you're going to love. A couple of years worth at this point. It's getting crazy. But
Yep.
Bill, we do have another special bonus episode happening in November. Will that episode come out in November? Will it come out in December? Well, we know we're recording it in November, so tune in and be on a high alert, folks. We've got a special returning guest. It'll be very fun. You know what? It'll be a wholesome episode, Bill.
It will indeed. Yes. It'll definitely be one that will be like a fine meal that you can just savor, and yet you'll be able to do it from the comfort of your own home, almost as if you were given instructions by someone who knows how to cook.
I love that. Well, Bill, this has been great, and we will see everyone very soon on Bill and Rob's An Excellent Adventure.
See you, pal.